As Dynasty Warriors fans, when we think of a synonym for the word nightmare, we probably think of
Can anybody provide me with a decent challenge?
and many others. But upon completing all the challenges on Origins twice on the hardest level, along with fighting Lu Bu with every weapon and hunting him on every level, it begged the question of, is this the hardest Dynasty Warriors game ever? Let's dive in. Traditionally, when we think of the hardest Dynasty Warriors game, we go back to those nostalgic beatdowns imposed on us by, well, Lu Bu. Holistically, as a game, the title of the most difficult game I think I can say with confidence is Dynasty Warriors 4. Limited controls, aggressive AI, unforgiving punishment would have my vote as the hardest Dynasty Warriors game, hands down. You can also throw your hat in for Dynasty Warriors 2 or even Dynasty Warriors 3. I think all three have a similar aggressive, hard style that the new games haven't topped since. Versus the new modern Origins with its smooth controls, still pretty aggressive AI, and forgiving checkpoints within the stage. Now, from a bird's eye view, I think we would probably all say that Dynasty Warriors 4 is still the most difficult, or Dynasty Warriors 2 or Dynasty Warriors 3, but I think Origins is a solid contender to the old games because of how difficult the game is, and I think most of us discovered the learning curve involved with Origins during the demo or when you first picked it up. Getting used to all the new mechanics while defending yourself against the impending waves of officers and peons was quite the learning curve to get used to. I'm like, the game is definitely hard for sure. Like, first off, when you do some of the Ultimate Warrior challenges, fighting some of those large forces all by yourself on Ultimate Warrior difficulty will give you a run for your money, even if you are maxed out at 101. Like, it is not an easy thing, especially if you're not super acclimated to it just yet, because you got to get used to all the moves and the way the peons run. I mean, there's still things that you have to get used to before things that they do in Origins no longer are a surprise to you, if that makes sense, right? So as long as there's things that you don't know about, you're going to have a hard time with Origins, whether it be a moveset, fighting someone, a grand tactic, the way the peons move, whatever it may be. It has its level of difficulty. I also think that there's an edge of Origins being a bit more difficult than some of the older games, because with the max character in some of the older games, the endgame levels are much easier to deal with, versus Origins, where they consistently seem to be on your ass in Origins on top of all the hacks that they get. You get the ultimate Musos, the hyper armor, the unflinchable attacks, right? All of that stuff, even when you are maxed out, does not matter. You still have to be kind of careful. The older games has their own versions of hacks for sure, but I don't think it's anything like Origins Ultimate Warrior level. They don't get like a new beefed up level or anything that's like ridiculous to overcome. And then there's also some stages like Chirbi, Shishui, and others where the chance of being able to really pay attention to the map dwindle. Because of the tactical elements needed for Origins, you have to kind of pay attention to either the visual cues on the map or the audio cues that you're trying to listen for while trying not to die. Without a solid initial plan, running and gunning in those maps is probably not going to work, as you're going to continuously try to put out fires. Like, I watched a video where someone was talking about how they enjoyed the Chinese dub for Origins, but they had to switch it back to English because they were so focused on the enemies in front of him that when his allies were calling out for him, he couldn't understand that they needed like help or he needed to go to them, and he ended up like failing the stage. So he was forced to switch to English dub to understand, so that way he can fight, keep the people in front of him, do damage, stay alive, and then listen to where he needs to go next and who he needs to help. That's insane. I think both games score evenly when fighting multiple officers at once. Like, if I think about an endgame stage on Dynasty Warriors 3 or 4, if you're fighting multiples of those aggressive officers when they're like strafing towards you, you know what I'm talking about? Like, they have the aggressive strafe. That is a dangerous place to be in those older games. But for Origins, it's a similar feel. You're looking for a parry or an evade, and you're trying to keep everybody in front of you. Because in Origins, if they are not on the screen, it does not mean that they are not around you. They will literally, from behind, like I got killed so many times hunting down Lu Bu for his duel by Dong Zhuo hitting me from behind, out of nowhere. Literally out of nowhere, because we can't see him. You know, when there's 3 officers charging up to hit you, you've got a millisecond and a half to process all 3 of their movements to see which one is going to hit you first to try and parry them. If you can't, then you can just evade away and, you know, hopefully you have enough bravery to do a heavy battle art to make those situations a little easier. But there's no guarantee. They're going to be obviously pressing you, especially if you are by yourself. Now, in hindsight, after playing Origins for so long, and even the older games too, this applies for both of the games become relatively easier as you get used to the movements, what the AI is going to do, how they move, all that stuff. And there are ways to get through some of those harder levels a little easier. But still, the challenge is there on the hardest level. That rivals those old games. Those mobs on the hardest level, it gets pretty hard on both Origins and the older games. And that's what I loved about Dynasty Warriors Origins. There was a view that I submitted to Koei Tecmo because I think Japan wanted feedback on how I felt about the game, and I told them that they captured the magic of the older games. And by the magic, I mean the difficulty. Because it's not just you smashing, you know, the same normal attack string, strong attack string in order to do damage. You gotta do parry, evade, dodge, watch out for your peripherals, use your battle arts. There's so much you have to take into consideration and that you can use for Origins to make your playthrough much smoother. And I would also argue that for the average normal player, keywords average and normal, right? That's me and you, the guys watching this video, right? That this is the hardest Lu Bu to date, on top of having one of the hardest challenges of no heals during his most difficult and most beefed up self. Like, come on, if you're watching this and you haven't tried to unlock red hair, go try it. And let me know how long that takes for you. It took me an hour and a half. An hour and a half to do it. And I was well acclimated into the game. I was using different weapons. I was figuring out how to put myself in the best position. And I was still struggling with it. If you need help, I got a tip video for you guys. But, you know, Origins definitely upped the notch for Dynasty Warriors games. And I'm honestly hoping for them to release an even harder level just because the gameplay is super addicting to play. But overall, if I would have to look at Origins and how I felt, you know, because gaming has advanced, the way the skill level of players have really evolved since the old days, like 25 years ago, I think that the average gamer is more skilled than they were back then. And taking that scaling into effect, I would say Dynasty Warriors Origins is the hardest Dynasty Warriors game ever. I think it's more difficult than the older games because of there's just so much you have to understand and react to that is not as simplistic as the older game. In the simplicity of things when it comes to Dynasty Warriors 2, 3, and 4, there isn't as many offensive options or even defensive options for you as a player. You got your block, you had a little version of a parry. It wasn't as obviously as clean as it is now, but you had a version of a parry, and then you had your normal attack string, your strong attack string, your Muso, and then, you know, Dynasty Warriors 5 introduced the Muso rate, but before that you didn't have that. So there wasn't really much. There wasn't really much you needed to know in order to do decently well at those older games. It was just a fact of you playing against AI that was very difficult to go against. Origins still has the hard AI, right? And the fodder, the peon fodder is still kind of there, but the harder AI on top of all of the things that you have to take into account for. The reflexes that you have to have in order to stop their battle arts, in order to dodge away, to use the Musos, to parry, to evade, to know when to attack, the fortitude, keeping track of their fortitude when their shield goes down, right? All of those things were refined from, you know, 20 years of releasing Dynasty Warriors games, and they, I think, have finally found the perfect balance of old and new in the gameplay and have made this the most difficult Dynasty Warriors game to date. And with that being said, that's all I have for the video here, guys. Let me know what you guys think about it down below. Do you think Dynasty Warriors Origins is the most difficult Dynasty Warriors game you played? Let me know your thoughts down below. If you enjoyed it, definitely appreciate a like, comment, or subscribe. If you're having any trouble with the game, let me know. We can talk about it. I got tips. I got tons of videos on the channel to help you guys out. All the Ultimate Warrior guides should be out for you guys, so if you're struggling with the challenge, go ahead and check those out. But hopefully you guys are enjoying the game, and hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you all in the next one.